Hop and Vetiver, Accidental Anarchists, Chapter 11. It's a Death Trap. Hey, Vetiver. Vetiver sat up, careful not to wake Cat. What is it, Hop? She crawled to the tent door and stuck her head out. What? I'm trying to rest. Let's sneak into town and explore. No! Vetiver retreated back into the tent and zipped up the flap. Hop opened it. His eyes glowed in the gloom. What if we never get a chance to come here again? What if you spend your whole life doing nothing because everything is too dangerous? Listen. From far over the rise, Vetiver heard music and laughter and shouting. Why do I have to go? I thought it would be a good experience for you. Or maybe you're too afraid to go alone. Vetiver slipped outside. Why am I doing this? Because you're a good friend. They picked their way over a ridge of broken gray shale. Lights sparkled from the wide ravine at their feet. A car chase was taking place on Main Street. A red Jeep Cherokee fled a battered Subaru with a mismatched hatch. Guns flashed from the Subaru's passenger window. With a screech, the Jeep careened into a light post, and 3 passengers leapt out of the smoking wreck to return fire at their pursuers. Spectators accumulated around the scene. As Hop and Vetiver neared the crowd, Vetiver heard a man with a massive beer belly bet on the Jeep for the night's winner. His opinion was met with cheers and boos. Hop noticed that most of the people in the crowd were drinking from glass bottles or aluminum beverage containers. Let's find some of what they have, he suggested. I don't drink, Vetiver responded, but she didn't think Hop heard her. The crowd was getting excited. A few feet away, 2 men had started to monkey dance. You looking at me? Yeah, so what if I am? Hop, let's leave. They skirted the onlookers and slunk into the relative safety of the other sidewalk. This side of the street was bordered by old buildings, many with splintered false fronts. Hop read the sign on the first building they came to. Hell's Bar and Grill. Let's go in there. Let's go home. A stray barrage of gunfire from the shootout dropped a few members of the crowd and took out a window above the street, showering Hop and Vetiver with glass shards. They stumbled inside. Hell's Bar and Grill was dim and smoky, and Vetiver collided with someone the second she entered. The woman snarled and swiped in her direction with long, dirty fingernails, but seemed too inebriated to be a serious threat. Sorry, Vetiver whispered. The travelers had entered the grill part of Hell's. Long wooden tables lined up in rows across the room, which was illuminated by dusty green fluorescent lights suspended from a low ceiling. Hop walked down a gritty aisle between tables. It was still early, so only a few seats, mostly in the corners and along the discolored walls, were taken. This place feels familiar. I don't like it. Can we go back, please? Hop continued to the back wall, where a flight of stairs led to the basement. The word bar was stenciled on the topmost concrete step. Hop descended the stairs. Vetiver followed, clutching for a banister that wasn't there. Hey, good to see ya, murmured the person behind the bar. It's been forever. An eternity, you might say. Hop glanced over his shoulder, then back at the bartender. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Sorry, my memory isn't good. I hear that a lot, especially when guys don't feel like paying their tabs. Come have a seat. Vetiver took stock of the room as she followed Hop to the bar. It was dimmer, fully, and slightly more inviting than the grill upstairs. Christmas lights hanging from the ceiling revealed small, round tables scattered around the room, where patrons spoke in low tones. The bar was the same greasy dark wood as the rest of the establishment. It was pocked with dents and gouged initials. An industrious individual had scraped a hole through the surface deep and wide enough to fit Vetiver's hand. A chalkboard filled the space behind the bar. It read, Hell's, Stay Forever, in red chalk. Under that was, Specials of the Day, Cerise or Vert, and the rest was filled with columns of names and figures. Hop sat down on a red vinyl stool that looked like someone had recently puked on it. What's the difference between Vert and Cerise? He asked. Vetiver took a seat beside him, tugging her skirt down so her bare legs wouldn't stick to the fake leather. You weren't lying about the memory lapse, the bartender remarked. He wore an olive green overcoat with a silver swastika pinned above the breast pocket. A cloud of curly gray hair engulfed his head and chin. When he spoke, fanged dental implants gleamed against his dark skin. Have you forgotten the important things in life, Mr. Reggiani? I'm Hell, and this is my bar. The way it works is, you give me money, and I give you alcohol. It sounds simple, but in this bar, there's added entertainment. See the names and numbers up there? Hell's tower of hair bounced as he waved his head at the board. Mm-hmm. My brews are special. In one out of every pair, I put in something extra, a fast-growing bacteria that does hilarious things to your innards. So every night, fellows come in here and bet on which color is good. Take a guess. Maybe you'll leave richer than you came. Can you give me a minute to think? Hop asked. Sure. Yell for me when you're ready to order. Hell turned away. So Vetiver, there's no way to tell which one is poisonous. Can we... Oh, I already know I'll go with the red one. Cerise is red, right? It's my favorite color. I was just wondering if you would lend a little money? Vetiver glared at Hop. So that's the real reason you made me come. You're broke. Think about it. If I use your money to buy Cerise, I'll split the winnings with you 50-50, and if you buy yourself Vert and that wins, we'll split 40-60. Either way, you win. I'm not going to drink alcohol. I probably shouldn't even be buying you alcohol. Don't you know what destroys your body and clouds? Hey, now, my body's mine to destroy if I... Or is it? Does your body really belong to you or the one who created it? Oh, so we're getting all theological, are we now? Sorry to interrupt, Hell muttered from the other side of the bar, but midnight's the cutoff for placing bets, so you better order soon. Hop leaned toward Vetiver. Just give me some. You'll get it back, plus more. And hey, won't you need money to get back to Bleaksilver? Vetiver sighed. She had sort of expected the argument to end this way. There wasn't much money left in the secret compartment of her bag, but she took out what she had and gave it to Hop. I'll take Cerise, he told Hell. Good choice. The bartender had said the same thing to a man a few stools over, who'd ordered Vert. Anything for the lady? No. Vetiver felt uncomfortable with everything about the situation. Hop passed Hell 10 and Hell set a glass of foaming red liquid in front of him. Bubbles dripped down the sides, leaving streaks on the bar as Hop pulled the drink closer. He drank, choked, and coughed. Are you okay? Vetiver had seen pictures of CPR, but she didn't know how to perform it. Of course I'm okay. It's stronger than I thought, but still pretty good. Hop took another drink and licked the foam from his upper lip. I think it's the kind of thing you develop a taste for. Want a sip? No. Vetiver hesitated, curious. I'll smell it, though. Hop pushed the glass over and Vetiver sniffed. The wet vapor bit her nose. Ow, that's strong. Hop tipped his head back and drained the glass. Hell refilled it. Sure you don't want anything? He asked Vetiver. I said, no thank you. You're kind of uptight. Mm-hmm. What is it you don't like about my bar, Missy Coyote? You're making people sick and acting like it's funny, and I don't think your whole Hell persona is very amusing either. Well, I've been burned. Hell coughed a dry laugh. We've got a real square here. Kid, you need to learn how to enjoy yourself. He moved away to serve someone else before Vetiver could think of a retort. By the cutoff at midnight, every seat was filled and several customers were talking loudly. When's the payout? One man bellowed. When the first bloke starts feeling under the weather, check his glass to see what he was drinking. I'll dole out the winnings then. There's a beheading event going on out there, and I don't want to sit here for an hour and miss it. You won't have to wait long, Hell answered as he wiped the glass with a greasy rag from under the bar. A burp squelched from one corner. No one paid much attention at first, but the man's next burp was unusually noisy. Dude, someone admonished the slender man. That's gross. I'm not trying to be. I just feel a little. In an instant, the patrons nearest the sick man had crowded around his table. What color? What color? Shouted the customers outside the huddle. A woman held up the man's half-empty glass. Vert! Mingled hoots and groans sounded from around the room. See, Vetiver, I told you red was lucky. We're going to be rich. Hell, can you give me another? Hop's cheeks were flushed. Yep, you're especially lucky tonight, because I know you're different than the other customers. Huh? Hop paused with the glass halfway to his mouth. You pointy-eared people. When one of you dies, he never graces my establishment again. Plus, you're the only sort I have to clean up with a spatula later. Pop! An explosion ripped through the tiny room, then a gushing sound and a foul smell from the direction of the sick man. The woman who'd made the announcement screamed, My dress! Hop stood up, straining to see. Everyone was taller than him. Vetiver noticed that many people around the room looked pale and sweaty. Belches reverberated through the close air. A man staggered from his stool, gasped something, and began to swell. Vetiver didn't have time to cover her face before the patron burst, splattering foam and internal organs in a 10-foot radius. A chunk of intestine smacked onto Vetiver's cheek, but vanished before she could wipe it off. A funnel of magenta vapors spun down from the ceiling and obscured the body. Similar explosions ripped through the room, followed by bursts of light and smoke. What is this? People who had chosen cerise dodged sprays of roiling foam and body parts, many laughing and congratulating each other on their good fortune. Hell got laughs by imitating the looks of doomed faces just before they ruptured. Like the last stage of a batch of popcorn, the explosions abated, then ceased. Looks like the end, folks, Hell said, pulling a metal tray from under the counter and plunking it down. Hope to see ya all again tomorrow night. Try convincing anyone who ordered Vert to come back. Better luck next time. He strolled down the bar, picking up empty glasses and placing them on the tray. You're a cruel person, Vetiver remarked as he passed by. She assumed from the lack of remains that the people hadn't really died. Probably they just woke up. Still, what sort of person would find the experience entertaining? Hell ignored her, or maybe he didn't hear. Well, that was a gruesome show, a woman near the bar remarked as she pulled on her coat. I feel a little ill myself, and I had cerise. Her comment got a few laughs. People gravitated toward the door. The woman who had spoken tripped and spewed all over the floor, then disappeared in a flash of spring green light. Didn't she have cerise? I thought I saw her drinking Vert. No, that was Ashley. Michonne had cerise, I'm sure of it. Oh, I forgot. Hop returned the full tray to the bar with a gentle clink. It must be Friday today. No, a man in a tan suit argued. Today's Tuesday. A fat woman held up a glowing cell phone. Saturday. Wasn't it Wednesday yesterday? Asked someone else. Hell opened the cash register, cha-ching, and counted out a stack of coins. Today is Friday, because Hell wins on Fridays. No, no way. A burly man lunged forward, but his stomach split apart, and mist was already swirling around him when he splorched to the floor. Hop? Vetiver turned to her friend. He was sweating. His skin, usually a warm, healthy brown, looked purplish. Vetiver, tell Kat I love her, which may or may not be true. Ugh. But she is pretty cute. But don't tell her that part. Just, ow. Hop, this is a stupid way to die. Those are stupid last words. You. She grabbed Hell's arm, spilling over a tower of money. What's the antidote? There must. Nope. Let go. Hell slapped her away. He scooped the money into a coat pocket and reached under the bar. He pulled out a spatula. Don't worry. He won't suffer long. Hop! The three of them were alone. Besides tipped chairs and shattered glasses, no trace of the other customers remained. Hurry up and die, so I can close, Hell rumbled. I heard there was a beheading event going on topside. Hop burped again. He was leaning against the bar, and his eyes stood out from their sockets, a testament to the diabolical pressure working against his insides. You can't die now, Hop. Not here. Haven't you figured it out by now, Missy? Anyone can die at any given time, anywhere. Stand back now. He's fixing to blow, Hell commanded. Instead of exploding, Hop threw up. He puked a stomachful of beans from supper and foul-smelling cerise foam onto the bar, on his stool, on Vetiver and Hell, and on himself. Bubbles fizzed and snapped on everything the vomit touched. Whoa! Hell jumped back. She's right, Hop snarled, puke dripping down his chin. I'm not going to... He regurgitated more booze and beans. I'm not going to die in this crummy bar. Come on, Vetiver, let's go. Hop puked again on the stairs. He puked when they reached the grill upstairs and found the beheading event had moved inside. Stand back, Vetiver squeaked as her friend doubled over on the concrete floor. A throng of blood-splattered faces leered at them over cleavers and sledgehammers. If you kill him, he'll die for real. Awesome! The crowd surged in close. A teenage boy with a pair of hedge clippers announced, This one's mine. No, he's not. A woman shoved through the crowd. She wore an apron over a practical beige dress. He's mine. She brandished a pair of kitchen scissors. Vetiver jumped. She shouldn't have been able to vault to ceiling height, but with all the craziness around her, she didn't think twice about the law of gravity. It felt natural, like she'd always been able to jump this high. Vetiver leapt above the crowd, leading with her foot, and swung her heel down on the hanging light fixture. The screws suspending it gave way, and the people below were showered with thin, hot shards of glass. Vetiver landed lightly, impossibly so according to normal physics, and snatched up a weapon from the floor. It was a shovel. Vetiver used the tool alternately as a sigh and a club, leaping and dancing across the shoulders of her slow, stupid, lumbering enemies. She wasn't thinking in words anymore, only actions. She was so fast, so light. Hit, stomp, kick, stab, constant forward pressure. Vetiver, Hop gurgled. Vetiver! Vetiver came back to herself a little. Her arms were swinging the shovel's blade at the back of a man's meaty neck, and the weapon wasn't cumbersome at all. It was an extension of herself. The man was running. He was getting away. They were all running, bunching up against the walls like a tidal wave with nowhere to go. Stop! Vetiver stopped. Hop tottered toward her, then leaned on her shoulder as they walked to the door. Outside, the street had calmed. The action had moved downtown, where a mob had set fire to an effigy propped up on a tailgate. Or was it a real person? Vetiver helped Hop up the ridge with one arm, wielding the shovel in her other. He slid on the shale, cutting his shins in 4 places. When they reached the shelter of the camp, he collapsed on the ground. Vetiver checked the slope behind them to make sure they hadn't been followed, then did the same. Hop, she said, your ideas suck. Harsh language, Hop burped again. I can't go back to bed. Cat would kick me out. I'm covered in throw up. Same here. The cold night air was bracing and the sky was clear. Uncountable stars flickered above Haven's light pollution. Towers of jagged rock framed the night. Hop? Yeah? I love you. Hop belched in alarm. I don't think that's legal, even here. Not like that, idiot. Vetiver fumed in silence for a minute, then continued, I love you in a real way, as your friend. Even when you do stupid things, especially when you do stupid things, because I worry about you. Well, now you've gone and made this perfectly good night all awkward. Blah. I suppose you want me to say it back? No. Not if you don't want to. 10 uncomfortable minutes passed. Then Hop said, whatever, and fell asleep. Even though Hop tried to act like he didn't have an unbearable hangover the next morning, Cat caught on within moments. I'm not even going to say how stupid that was, she sighed as she rolled up her tent. I just hope you learned something. Yeah, sure. Hop took a long swig from his canteen. Don't go to Hell's on Friday. Kat glared at him furiously, but instead of arguing, she only picked up her pack and led the way back down. After Robert and Isla had picked up a few cans of beans in town, they set out again through the wilderness. The ground sloped upward starting in the early afternoon, and the sand turned hard. Before long, the group picked their way over the crest of a hill, and Kat made a pleased sound. "Ah, I think this might be a new record." Hysteria Descent sprawled across the landscape like a dead dog, and the rocky hills surrounding it spread out like the folds of a collapsed drunkard's coat. The town wasn't big, but it gave the impression of complexity. Looking down on it from the rise, it was impossible to find a pattern in its labyrinthine streets. The buildings leaned in different directions, seeming to slow dance in the heat. None of them looked taller than 3 stories. A water tower, covered many times over with painted messages, stood out above the slumped skyline. "So this is your kind of town," Vetiver commented. Hop didn't reply. When the sun reached its zenith overhead, the group sat under a rock outcropping to rest and plan. Corbin transformed and wafted over the town. Robert and Isla sharpened their spearheads, passing a whetstone back and forth in silence. Kat leaned against a rock and closed her eyes. "What are you doing?" Vetiver asked Hop. He held out his hand. An orange rock rested in his palm. As his hand heated and burned ember red, the rock crumbled into grains, then liquefied and dribbled between his fingers, splattering coarse glass onto the parched ground. "It's sandstone." "Yeah." They sat in silence for a moment, then Vetiver asked, "Does this feel like home to you?" "Maybe." "Are you ready for a fight?" "Maybe." "Probably." Corbin materialized at the mouth of the opening, then ducked into the shade and sat down. "I couldn't see anyone, friend or enemy. But that's been my experience every time I've tried to get through this place. I suggest we do it Hop's way. Barge in and destroy anyone in our way. Unless you have a better idea, Kat." "No, Hysteria Descent is such a messed up town, it would take forever to formulate a strategic plan. Plus, you've tried that 6 times? Can't we just go around?" Vetiver asked. "No, Gomez altered the route, so you can only continue to her place if you go through the town. It's like a sieve." Vetiver started to lift her pack, but Corbin stopped her. "We'll leave all the non-essentials here. We have a better chance of making it through if we aren't laden down with stuff." "But my bag is essential." Corbin looked like he might argue, then decided it wasn't worth the trouble. "Vetiver," said Kat, "stick with us all the time, okay? If you get separated, you'll be defenseless." "Okay," Vetiver said. She thought, "I'm actually so strong, I could probably wipe you from the face of the earth if I wanted to." Then she felt disgusted at herself. Warrior breathing was tough while they walked in the heat, but Vetiver did her best. The group stepped onto the crumbling asphalt leading into Hysteria Descent, and a wave of superheated air flooded Vetiver's skirt. Her bangs swirled in the updraft for a moment before plastering to the sweat on her forehead. The first building they passed was covered in corrugated red tin. Gutter's Grill was painted on the side in foot-tall, shambling letters. Other buildings lining the street included Disastrophe, with painted-over windows, a boarded-up shop with neon Chinese characters in the window, and a pharmacy. On the sign hanging above the pharmacy door, Legacy Health Solutions had been swiped out and rechristened Cough Medicine with hot pink spray paint. Bars covered the door and windows. A thin strip of shade cooled the sidewalk, and Corbin, Kat, Hop, and Vetiver followed it down the street to an intersection. Robert and Isla split off to scout the streets ahead. Corbin ran his hand along an ochre brick wall. Sand wafted down. "For the time you've been gone, this place is holding up pretty well," he muttered to Hop. "Does anyone still live here?" Vetiver asked. "I think there are a few sprites left, but since this is a war zone, they mostly stay inside. They travel through tunnels under the sidewalks and shops," Corbin explained. "I've seen movement, but no one has ever tried to talk to me." "Try to be as quiet as possible from here on," Kat whispered. The street narrowed. Tumbleweeds grew from the shattered pavement, and posters for raves, lost pets, and garage sales competed for space on slanting light posts. Thick tangles of power lines cast snarled, intricate patterns of light and darkness on the dusty street. The group walked single file, navigating around fallen garbage cans and other obstacles in the way. Vetiver was stepping over a pile of greasy rags when someone called, "Hey, wait up for me, man!" All four of them froze. "Corbin!" Kat hissed. "I thought she was gone, or dead, or had wandered off." A soft, plumping sound accompanied the shuffle of weary feet from around the corner in front of them. Vetiver noticed the sequum first. Something that looked like a blob of uncooked pizza dough flopped into the street. It stood about a foot tall and had a long sprout growing from its top. Two oval black eyes blinked up at the intruders. It bounced forward, and Vetiver saw a fine coat of orange dust clinging to its underside. "Is that thing dangerous?" Hop asked. Kat's hunting knife glinted silver in her clenched hands. "No, but its keeper is." "Hold up, guys, I'm feeling kind of blurry today." A bare foot stepped from the doorway of the Nihilist Bistro, followed by a pair of loose violet pants and a flowing saffron top, tied at the waist with string. Finally, the speaker's head appeared, a mass of green waves topped by a magenta stocking cap. She walked toward them, leaning back, then to the left, then tipping forward to embrace Hop. "Man, I wasn't sure I'd see you again. It's been a while. Years, huh? It's good to see you." She planted a sloppy kiss on Hop's cheek. "Yasmin, he's lost his memory," Corbin said softly. "Oh, dude." Yasmin leaned back, gripping Hop's shoulders for balance, and stared at his face. "That can be tough. Sometimes for the best, though, you know. All things work together for what's best, right? Synchronicity." She swayed away from Hop and clasped hands with Kat. "Good to see you too. You should stop by more often." Yasmin's top was sleeveless, and Vetiver noticed that her unkempt armpit hair was the same green as the hair on her head. She didn't seem to have any eyebrows, not a left one anyway. The right side of her face was obscured by hair. Yasmin slumped down to Vetiver's level and pinched her cheeks. Silver bangles clinked down her arm. "Whoa, a kid! Hey man, nice to meet you. It's been forever since I saw a little person." "Hello, Yasmin." "Corb man! Better luck this time, huh?" Yasmin took a tentative step towards Corbin, who stiffened. "You might as well have a 'Don't touch me' sign tattooed on your face," she complained. "How are you going to feel the love?" "I feel the love. You don't have to touch me. So, Yasmin, where are Gomez's minions?" "They lay low in abandoned places. She's been using dogs, which is super depressing. I mean, those dogs are basically citizens. I try to keep an eye on them, but you know how they are. They wander off, and she gets them." Yasmin was next to Hop again, stroking his back. "Sorry about that, man. I know the dogs are important to you." "Can you draw us a map?" Kat asked. "One that shows where the enemies are, plus the way out of town that leads to Gomez?" Hop would have known at one point, but not anymore. "Sorry, I don't have a paper and pen, so I'll have to just draw it on the wall." "I don't prefer to do that, man. It upsets the natural balance and throws me off." Yasmin extended a bony finger and drew a large square on the cinder block wall beside them. The concrete dissolved as her finger passed over it, leaving a furrow. She began to explain various options and possibilities, but Vetiver was distracted by something bumping against her leg. It was the sequum. "Hello." Vetiver crouched down. She extended her hand to the sequum, and even though it didn't have a nose, it appeared to sniff her fingers. Then it reared up and engulfed her arm up to the elbow. "Ah! What is it doing?" Kat hissed. Yasmin glanced over. "She's an outsider, so he's digesting her. Nothing personal. Just pull on the sprout and he should come right off. Now this alley here, man, is basically a death trap." Vetiver pulled on the sprout. Instead of letting go, the sequum oozed reluctantly from her arm in a latticework of soft dough. It dropped to the ground and stared at her for a heartbeat, then crossed over to a stairway and plopped out of sight. The pat, pat, pat of its locomotion faded into nothingness. We better set out now, Yasmin said. The enemy is moving. How do you know? Vetiver asked from behind her. The street had grown so narrow they had to walk single file. The Sequim don't recognize the dogs as a threat because the dogs used to be citizens. But I can still communicate with the Sequim scattered through the town, and they notice movement by the southern abandoned textile factory. I'm guessing that's the enemy. So you can just communicate with your Sequim whenever. About whomever? Now it seemed that they had been detected. Cat spoke at a regular volume. You mean like spying? Stalking? Yeah. And that seems okay to you? Well, maybe not, man, but it's basically the only way to keep up with the local pixies. They won't talk to me since Hop left. And I have to, keep everything together. And that's kind of hard. And plus, people watching has always been my hobby. And when you work alone for 6 years with no other contact, it's... Someone screamed. In the labyrinth of alleys, it was impossible to know where the sound had come from. Was that Isla? Cat tensed. It was Robert, said Hop. Come on, we need to help him. He cut left down an alleyway so tight, even Vetiver had to swivel sideways to get through. The ground was littered with debris. Vetiver saw a crumpled bicycle carcass in time to leap over it, but she misjudged the height and tripped over a bent handlebar. She fell face first into a garbage bag. It exploded on impact, filling her vision with tissues and chicken feathers and tin cans. She scrambled up, but Yasmin's back had already vanished. After taking an instant to examine her ankle, it had hit hard, but there was no blood. She hobbled to the other end of the alley. She couldn't guess where the group had gone, and even if she was lucky with one turn, they would have already turned again by now. Where had the scream come from? She couldn't remember exactly, but it might have been left, or straight ahead. Not to the right, probably. She stood for a moment in indecision. Guilt constricted her throat. A vertical puddle of sweat welled up on her back. She tried so hard not to be a burden, and now look at her, lost in a veritable minefield. What had Yasmin said? Dogs? Stray, mad dogs filled with foul blood? Vetiver turned left, her shoes slapping softly on the shattered asphalt. She walked down the middle of the road, tracing a broken yellow line with her dusty feet. Every few steps she stopped to listen. The fourth time she stopped, she stood still for a moment, listening hard, and she thought she heard a tiny sound from the alleyway to her right. Hop? He couldn't have heard her. She'd whispered to avoid being heard by enemies. But the shuffling sound repeated, like gravel under Hop's sandals when he was trying to be quiet, like a crazed creature bumping mindlessly against a trash can. A creature with empty, dead eye sockets and foul, lifeless breath and undead blood. Or was that Hop? Vetiver slunk across the sidewalk, her left hand clenched around the strap of her bag, the other curled into a fist. Hop? Shadow swallowed her as she entered the alleyway. The light change turned everything dark green. Vetiver picked her way around a stack of cardboard boxes, treading noisily on crushed takeout boxes and candy wrappers. The alley was a dead end.